The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
And come one, come all, it's the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. With me, your host, Jason Bryant, 11-time National Wrestling writer, broadcaster, announcer, thinger, majigger, podcast host, and this is a show that talks about wrestling. It talks about all things wrestling. It talks to people involved in wrestling, and it talks to people who are not involved in wrestling, but who used to be involved in wrestling. Today, we are talking with Richard Immel. He is a guy who spent some time with wrestling at USA Wrestling. Now he's in the private sector, if you will, but doing some photography. We talk with Richard about what he's doing now, some things in and around the world of wrestling, some topics about the AWL. We'll get into all sorts of things with a guy I really hold in high regard in the sport of wrestling and maybe not so much in fantasy football, so I won't bore you with the details. Richard's joining the show. Let's just roll right into it here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. More on how to subscribe, rate, review, and maybe pick up some gear and support this show at the end of the program. So if this is your first time listening, yeah, this is kind of a cool podcast about wrestling. Enjoy. We're just going to roll right into the interview here because at this point, the long and short of it never quite launched, and we've got a guy drinking hot tea in West Lafayette, Indiana. He is our guest. He's your guest, Richard Immel. Welcome back to the Wrestling Podcast land. Not seen since you're co-hosting on Blood Round.
Yeah, it's been a while. That was actually the first time I've been back in a number of months. Outside of that one episode we tried to record and should forever delete, which you probably still haven't done. But
I don't delete anything.
Yeah. We were just talking before the show about how if I ever ran for president, Jason would definitely have some stuff on me, to say the least. So
nothing like anybody who competed at Old Dominion Athletics between 1998 and 2004. They're really screwed.
Speaking of Old Dominion, your boy Larry Early.
Larry Early the third. Yeah. What was interesting is that duel. I remember watching that duel last year. I'm like, all right, Early, where you at? It was because he had transferred in the year before, like had a half a semester, then his first full year in the lineup. All right, Hayden Hidley. It was like Hayden's breakout wins. Like, okay, where's Hidley going to be? Early, was a good litmus test because he was up here in high school. Hayden was up there too, but it didn't seem like Hayden had the respect coming out of high school. I mean, he had to get it after beating Mason Manville and Fargo, and then so when he majored Larry Early last year, I'm like, okay, this guy's for real. Yeah. And then for Larry, it's a good win. Remember, he does have the loss to Mike D'Angelo, who it does not count in his record this year because D'Angelo. The Ivy Leagues, you have to sit out completely. You don't redshirt in the Ivy. You have to completely sit out the year. And if you are not on a roster and you're not enrolled in school, your results do not count. So D'Angelo is basically deferring a year, the Ivy shirt, whatever, and he will come back next year. But so, when Walter Peppelman was sitting out, none of those matches count. Kanan Bethea in recent memory. So Early's technically still undefeated, even though he lost to D'Angelo, who gave him fits last year from Princeton. But yeah, good win for Larry. I mean, and one video review, things might go the other way. Shane Jones had a takedown, almost there. I mean, it was their basic. Depends on which camera view you had. I mean, they almost knocked off the Wolfpack. So I wasn't going to be running around, after a win like NC State, like I was when ODU beat Virginia Tech in football when I was in Slovakia. But
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. The weirdest things. I'm in Slovakia. They win the craziest. The highest ranked team in history. Then I'm in Budapest, and they beat Western Kentucky on 3 untimed downs in what was the craziest finish of the year. So that is, I think, our fill of ODU football chatter. Now let's drop one letter, D, like a lot of the teams of Old Dominion's had of late. No D, and talk about OU. You got to be excited, man! College football playoff time. Even though the system doesn't make any freaking sense.
Well, you ruined my no D joke with OU, so thank you for that.
Dude, that's been a joke ever since ODU started, man. It was like Heineke throws for 730 yards that game against New Hampshire. It was 63-60. Yeah, it's been O_U for years.
No, I'm talking about my Sooners. That was my joke. But
it must be the big. Oh, the entire Big 12 doesn't have defense.
I say that in jest. I'm really looking forward to the playoff and really happy. It's been a very stressful season as an OU fan. It's probably one of the most stressful I've ever been a part of. And yeah, that's close to the horns down. It's not quite the horns down. You gotta have the two fingers. So
that was Hawaii. This is what they do at BYU when they play Hawaii.
Okay, I got you.
For those, well, actually, the only ones who can see us is us. So this is, again, as we say, bad podcasting, visual jokes.
Yeah, I'm really excited about some OU football. We don't have to get too much into it, but always fun to support my Sooners, and got to see some Sooners in Vegas this week. Excited to see how they've been performing now that I can be biased and everything, and show my true colors. Not that I wasn't before.
As everybody noticed on Flow Wrestling Stream, okay, there's Tony Rotundo sitting dead center, and then over there, just off to his left, wearing the crimson and cream pullover. Yep, there's BDI himself shooting photos, looking all like half official. Even weren't you shooting for Purdue anyway?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. When you're working and it's a short week, you kind of get your days mixed up. While I was packing Wednesday night before traveling out to Vegas, and I packed an OU set of clothes because OU's playing in the Big 12 championship game, and then I packed the USA Wrestling set of clothes for the other day. For some reason, I thought the first day was going to be my OU day, and the second day, like when I need to look more professional, with the finals and everything, maybe do some interviews, I'd have my USA Wrestling garb on. But I got the days mixed up, and OU played on the finals day as opposed to the first day. So I wore my USA Wrestling stuff on Friday, and my OU stuff, I just had a shirt on because, why not? Coach Leitner and Roselli appreciated it, as did a few of my Cowboy friends that I've run into throughout the years. But Oklahoma State Cowboy friends, I should say. Yeah, it was fun. I got to do some photos. I did shoot for Purdue, shot for some other media outlets too. Got to dabble with some articles, do some interviews, a lot of freelance work in Vegas. So it was fun to get back in there. I haven't had that much involvement in a wrestling tournament in a while, so it was definitely refreshing to be back in the mix and see a lot of old friends and be around the environment again. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. We can dive into it further if you would like.
Yeah, that's the next question, because I know your soon to be better half knows, but you left USA Wrestling prior to the NCAA tournament. We're not even quite a year yet, and people are like, "What? Where's Richard?" I mean, I tell you what, I definitely missed you overseas this year because there had to be more witnesses to the karaoke. But yeah, what have you been up to for those who are unaware of the whereabouts of Mr. Immel?
Sure. Well, let me answer the karaoke thing first. Dude, it's hard. It's hard not being involved in that capacity. Those are some of my favorite trips, and especially when you go overseas. No matter who you go over with, when you're the only Americans, you tend to bond. So that's how you get to know a lot of the athletes, and even better than before. Because in the States, you're really just doing unless they're on the national team, but and they come to training camp, but just typically like the college kids and even some of the high school kids and our senior level athletes, going overseas is where you really get to know them. I think recently, the Richard Perry, thing that's going on, and thankfully he seems to be doing much better, and obviously we're always thinking about him. But when I went to Paris in 2017. That's where I really got to know him. And that one sticks out just because of everything that happened. But you're like, man, I really got to know that guy on that trip. And I knew who he was. I talked to him before. I always knew he was a nice guy. But when you go on these trips, you're like, man, it's just something special to be a part of. And you really get to feel like you're part of the team and get to know one another on a deeper level, which makes my previous job and being involved in the sport that much better. So yeah, what have I been up to? Going back to your question. By the way, it's much harder being on this side of the Q&A.
Yeah, because I've actually asked you a formal question. This isn't like bonus time where, you know, and we end up doing a world. By the way, for those of you who don't know, full disclosure, the last time Richard and I did a world championship preview, and we were talking about doing that this year. It's just it didn't. The craziness happened, and with Richard having like a real job that, you know, I've tried to avoid as much as possible in my adult life. The time to sit down and slam 9 beers while doing a preview. Because, you know, as we one year we said, okay, we'd do the freestyle. By the time we got to that third preview, I think it was like 3 beers per hour. I mean, I was good. I don't know, I was pretty good. As of right now,
we were going for over 3 hours, right? We went back to back.
Yeah, I'm drinking a Gable Munich Helles right now by Single Speed. This was going to be a theme of our show. We were going to do a show of Richard and I just basically talking like we do now, and not talking about the wrestling, because apparently that went over well with the fans. Why don't you guys just do that for 45 minutes? So as we're like almost 10 minutes into this show, I actually have zero of substance. But as I get off track with tangents about beers, but yeah, that's where was I going with that? I was talking about beer. I was talking about the questions and asking and things. But I don't know. Was that where I was going, Richard?
I think I just brought that up. It was interesting, but I'll answer your question. What have I been up to? So. Big Ten Championships was my last event for USA Wrestling, and for those of you who don't know, I'm recently engaged.
I don't have the sound effects plugged in. I bought a new board. I don't have it plugged in yet. So
yeah, so to Amanda, that is her name. She works in a dual role capacity at Purdue with the wrestling team. So she does communications and operations. So basically, she runs Purdue Wrestling and tells Coach Ursland and all the other coaches and wrestlers where to be. And without her, ship wouldn't sail. So she's awesome at her job, and you've known her longer than you've known me, actually, and longer than we've known each other. So it's funny how stuff works out sometimes.
That's all the credit I'll take right now. We'll wait for later for more credit.
Publicly, we'll leave that there. So yeah, after Big Tens, I packed up and moved out here to West Lafayette to be with Amanda. We decided that was the route we wanted to take. I got a real job doing boring marketing and financing.
Hoping your employer doesn't listen to this show at the moment.
I doubt anyone there will be listening, but
they're probably it is boring.
Yeah, well, I don't think they disagree. But anyway, so I'm taking the time to really focus on my personal life as opposed to my professional life, which I have done very selfishly for the last 7 years since I graduated college. So it was time for me to be a little less selfish and try to figure out the next steps after that. So I'm not out of it. Obviously, I can't stay away. I went to Vegas and just took photos, wrote some articles. I went to a couple of the Final X events, which was incredible. And that was cool because I was actually a big part of the initial stages of that, the conception and or the inception, whatever. Coming up with the idea.
You were there at conception?
Yeah. Oops. So
you are not the father.
Yeah, I think I might have been the one that actually came up with the name Final X, and everyone hated it, but I wasn't at USA Wrestling anymore, so that was kind of interesting. We sat in a room for, hours and just brainstormed, and so it was cool to see that come to fruition and at least be a small part of that. I got to take photos, and that was really the first time I was back around wrestling. Went to the U23 World Team Trials, which we can also get into at some point because we're going to talk about some of these college kids. And so it's been nice. I have a much slower pace of a day to day. I get to be a part of wrestling in some capacity right now. What happens down the road? Who knows? Chances are I'll probably be back someday because I just can't stay away from it. I love wrestling. Yeah, we'll just see. We'll see where that goes from a professional side, but I'll be around for sure. If we can ever figure out how to do a podcast again, and that's something that I think people would like, I would like to do at some point. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing though. When you become an adult, like right now, I've got my oldest daughter Lucy's dealing with some weird sickness right now. We're trying to fight through. It's been like 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, trying to figure out what's going on. So the only time I can sit and record with people that have a 9 to 5 that have real lives, like when Richard was not attached at the hip to our dear friend Amanda here, it was okay, yeah, let's do it at work while he's at work at USA Wrestling. That was easy. I work from home. It would have been ezy here. Now it's okay, after the kids go to bed, different time. He's in Indiana, which is messed up with its time zone situation because it like jaggers through the state. Not J Jaggers, but it just kind of, it's jagged through the state rather, not jaggers. And, for years they didn't do daylight savings. It was just weird. He lives in that weird state, although it's cool because it's one class wrestling state. So, you come out of that state, you're probably pretty good. And then, so we got late hours. It was like, man, I called with Johnny Ruggiano last week for the Titan Mercury AWL podcast. We had done it like midnight local time. It was like, geez. So, we got to do these things later now when you have real people jobs.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I can't sit at my desk and flip on whatever tournament that's streaming and watch wrestling for a couple hours.
Oh, yes, you can. You can, but...
I can. I mean, I have to be a little more discreet about it, let's say.
Claunch does it. Wait, does he even have a real job? Or does he just...
maybe.
I don't know.
I think he does. I think he has a real job.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I actually had to do that for the Worlds and for the NCAAs. I flipped up my computer on my desk, and we have an open concept, so everyone can see what I'm doing, and I didn't really care. I was like, I'm watching wrestling. Get over it. Sorry.
All right, so real quick on Budapest, because that was that was 13. That was a big year as you came into the fray back then. 5 years ago,
yep.
We saved Olympic wrestling. We saved freestyle and Greco-Roman and women's wrestling that year, and you were a big part of that with the Google Hangouts and the. I almost think it gets the Mandela effect with What Up Prez, because as we go back and try to find that, it's an inside joke between a couple people that were there.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to actually exist. It was a figment of our imaginations.
I think so.
It was definitely Mandela effect, but the Budapest Bull, the guy that was dressed up like Psy, and then the Koreans doing Gangnam Style, the Hungarians going nuts. I mean, this year the crowd was crazier. Then they finished with Greco. I mean, that place erupted when these guys are in the World Finals. Like, Bacsi Petar, as I said the Hungarian names backwards just because we were there. Craziness. I was just thinking about 2013 all over again. I mean, how far we've come as a sport since, 2013, Save Olympic Wrestling, new rules, better concept. I mean, and the rules have been pretty much consistent ever since, which is something you don't see from the International Federation in the previous regime.
Heck yeah, man. That first year when I came in, you mentioned that. I think so. It was February of 2013, right?
Was it Valentine's Day? It was either the 13th or 14th of February.
Well, I just remember I'd been there a month, right? So
yeah.
And I'm still learning the ropes. Obviously, I wrestled in college, and I knew who the major names were. And are you going to do that?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely cracking the pop at a cold Gable's Gold. Hey, continue. It's pretty good beer, actually.
Yeah, I'll have to try it sometime when I can make it out to Iowa.
Can I bring you some at the Midlands? No, I'm flying. Actually, why didn't Amanda bring you some from the last time? She was at Carver a month, like 2 weeks ago.
That's true, but
you guys are beer snobs too. We'll talk about that in a second. Keep going with the Budapest stuff, because I do want to talk beer here in a bit.
No, I was gonna reiterate your point. I think, I came in to USA Wrestling in January. Actually, January 1st of 2013 was my first day officially. We got that phone call mid-February that wrestling was on the chopping block, potentially going to be eliminated, and that's, you learn a lot about yourself in that moment. I woke up, I had, mind you, not many people had my phone number at this time. I just remember waking up and I had about 50 text messages and a few missed calls at 7 a.m. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then it was just crisis mode. But, we had great leadership across the board that was able to make the necessary changes. CPAL or CAPAL, whatever you want to call it.
The Committee for the Preservation of Olympic Wrestling.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like your voice there. And That was good. I mean, that was something that we put together, and I was the social media chair, if you want to have the official title, of Kapow. And basically, I held a weekly, meeting with several leaders. You were on the calls for that, I think.
Yeah, I was on for at least one.
Yeah, we had a few people on every week, and we discussed how could we promote the sport and sort of drive our position and our strategy and do what we need to do essentially to keep wrestling on the docket or on the program, I should say.
Wasn't Pedro Gamafila from Brazil like in an airport doing his hangout? It was like, hey, there's Pedro.
Yeah.
Can he hear us?
Yeah, the Google Hangout thing was pretty cool. I mean, I think they've gone by the wayside now, but at the time it was something unique that we were able to spread the message.
Yeah, imagine a day now where, hey, Nenad Lalovich, yeah, can you jump on our Twitch stream?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm also considering doing a Twitch stream for wrestling, but I don't know how much gamer wrestler crossover there is. But
I don't know. I did one Google Hangout with Kale, John Smith, and Tom Brands on it, and you want to talk about nervous. Having those three on one conference call leading the way, that was a little bit nerve-wracking. Kale was sitting in the office right next to me too. Fun fact. I think three of us were actually. Oh, and Tom Brands was in the same office too. We just had to set it up on different computers so they could all be on the screen. You can actually go back and watch those. They're on the USA Wrestling YouTube.
You said hour.
I know. I said I got to break the habit.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because you invest so much time and effort into something, and you want to leave something better than when you found it. And I think I definitely did that, and I'm proud of the progress we made. So, and you had the same.
I was going to say, you said I left you a pile of shit. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, well, one thing is I couldn't leave it any worse than I found it because it wasn't there when I got there. So I at least had that up. But yeah, I will always say this is that when Richard came in with the skill set, I'm like, ooh, look at that photo shot. He's better than me at that. Okay. This guy will do good.
To be fair, I had a lot of growing up to do and learning as far as what all needed to be done. So very thankful for USA Wrestling giving me that opportunity. And obviously I wouldn't be the professional I am today and without going through all of my experiences there. But I had to grow up real fast at USA Wrestling because of the Olympic situation.
Yeah, there was no easing into that job that year. I mean, that was just like, hey, all right, welcome. By the way, this is the atomic bomb of the sport that's been dropped on us right now. Go to town.
Yeah, basically. Budapest was wicked, though. That was one of my favorite. That was my first real international trip, and you were obviously a big part of that. I remember just the first day we went out and walked around the city and someone had a stuffed pork chop and you had a beer. We both had beer, to be honest.
Did Gary have bread, right?
Yeah, it was fresh.
It's fresh.
No, that was Budapest. Yeah. Gary had the fresh bread in Budapest.
Fresh.
He almost got us kicked out of that same restaurant we went to.
It's funny when Gary's Long Island comes out. That's one thing working for him. Like, you don't really get to see the Long Island side of Gary come out until it's like somebody's being really like stingy with service or something. To be
like, where's the ketchup?
Like, I've asked you for ketchup 20 minutes ago. It's just like, hey, we're trying to order here. It's just, I mean, that's not how he sounds. It's how he acts. It's one of those things. Yeah. You know what? I could say what it's like to live with Gary for 6 months and have him have a day off the next day and have him come off a trip. And there might have been a bottle of Jack Daniels. Him and I had some discussions over. That was an interesting time, but you learn a lot about your boss that way too.
Yeah. Gary's a good dude, though. I'm glad I got to learn from him for as long as I did. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to succeed in the line of awesome directors of communications at USA Wrestling. Who knows? We'll see. If Bender still likes me in a couple of years. That's neither here nor there.
So one thing I will say about Budapest, I was telling people that were first-timers there because you got hit with the fine. The Metro fine,
yeah.
Like your ticket had expired by like an hour or something. It was like, no. If you're gonna take the Metro, make sure your ticket. If you're saying, oh well, I got it, it's cool. No, because the time it expires, they will check you and you will get a fine. The fine's substantial too. It's not like $5. It's the Metro police will like walk you to the ATM I didn't have that.
I was scared because it was, yeah, I missed it by a couple hours because the cutoff I think was at midnight when we were going back. I forget the whole scenario, but the police stop you like going up those huge escalators. You can't get out. Like you have to go by the police.
And those escalators are like a mile long and deep too. Yeah, I mean, it's like
they really are.
It's crazy.
So yeah, luckily I had some cash on me, and I just cashed my way out of it.
Legally, of course.
Yeah, legally for sure. They just make you pay the fine or whatever at that point if your ticket expires. So yeah, that was a great trip though. I really enjoyed that. The Budapest Bowl was always iconic and memorable, and obviously that was my first World Championships. So I never really experienced that high level of wrestling before, and I really gained an appreciation for how incredible wrestling is worldwide. And because at that time the U.S. wasn't doing so hot medal wise. But that was the year Jordan Burroughs won his third straight gold medal.
Broken ankle and all.
Broken ankle.
Which, as again, another media fiasco. I mean, that's stuff that everybody knew that was there. I mean, a select handful of people knew that. Not many people knew that. Yeah, I mean, one guy who actually knew it was trying to call media people and tell them. But anyway, that's another story entirely. We'll bring up that DB. But how cool is it? It comes full circle. With Dake was there in 2013, ready. Thought he was going to go. I mean, we didn't know Jordan was going to go until the day of, or I guess when you weighed in the day before. But even then, you're still like, Dake's training like he's going to go. He's going to be the guy. And then, obviously this year it comes full circle and he gets his world title. So I was really happy for him and David Taylor and really everyone that medaled. We had an incredible year. Crazy. It was so cool. And, I not to like, do the whole pat on the back thing, pat myself on the back thing. I said this about every especially with Rio, but anytime I get the opportunity to say, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem of the United States of America, it makes my year. In this case, I got to say it 4 freaking times in men's freestyle, which is crazy. Was it 4? Dake? Or how many times did I get to say it? 3 or 4? I can't remember. Cox, Burroughs, Taylor. Burroughs got third. Dake. So it'd be 4 because we had Adeline. So four times overall. Yeah, okay, so that's what I meant, 4. Just to be able to do that and then sit there and have that it's a digital flag these days. It's not like it's waving poetically in the breeze of the arena. But I still get teary eyed when it goes up and they cut away and then you can see the athletes crying on the podium. I mean it's a special moment to witness. So even when it's an American, you get to see. It was wild. It was really cool. Plus Budapest, as I've been taught how to say it. That was that's one of the best things. Now we've spent a lot of time talking about international wrestling. We haven't even talked about where you were in Vegas, but I do want to stay on the international side of things. We had the AWL, which was going on during Vegas, so you didn't get a chance to see it. I watched it as I was dual screening it pretty much all weekend with Flo on one side with the CKLV and then various dual meets around the country and then track with the AWL. Not the first time we've had a pro wrestling iteration, not the first time in the last 5 years, 6 years we've had one. Agon came and went. Flow Premier League came and went. Track even did like a pro match here and there. It really didn't have a whole lot of organization to it. But AWL got some money behind it in terms of it being, Andy Barth and Titan Mercury kind of pushing it. And, you didn't get a chance to see it. But as far as your relationship with the athletes over the years, what do you think their buy-in has been? Why we saw we saw 2s and 3s. We didn't see, I think James Green was the only one we saw. But in terms of the athlete buy-in, do you think this thing's got a future? It's hard to say. It's hard to say without knowing, obviously, all the details of the business model. To your point, I saw some results, and anytime we can get the best of the best out there competing, having an Oliver Rutherford match in a arena like that, or just all those matchups across the board. You saw something cool with Deron Wynn coming back after he looked really great in his fight just a couple weeks ago, and then he comes back and gets a dub. Or he didn't win, but was able to put his shoes on the mat and have that moment to himself. So you saw some cool things with the event. The format itself with the draft, I liked the concept. I thought it added a little more pizzazz to it. I don't know what their long-term strategy is. I think that's in question with them. Obviously, there's some money behind it with Titan Mercury and
It's not the first time we've seen it. So I think it's going to be really tough for a professional, if you will, professional wrestling type of league to succeed without the right format, backing, platform, buy-in. Your question was actually what would the athletes' reaction to it be, or how would they buy in? I think what you see is it's an opportunity for them to showcase their talent, number one, to perform and to get paid. I think that's a big deal. Trying to drive equity in the sport of wrestling is something that is important, and it doesn't have. Don't get me wrong; it's a lot better than it was even when I first started. But we got a long ways to go. To have these athletes. If you're number one, you make a decent living. If you're number two, you can get by. If you're number three, maybe you're all right. But across the board, wrestling's underfunded, and it needs that support. So whatever model we can get to financially support the athletes, as well as drive up interest, bring in fans, really build the sport. Um, that's what I would support, and I think that's what the athletes would support as well. If they can see it, see a path to success, which I tell you what, I think Final X was a step in the right direction. I really do think it was a step in the right direction because it has to mean something too. I love what they did with that event the other day, but long term, what does it actually mean? Probably nothing outside of, yeah, that was a cool event, and we got to see some good wrestling. The wrestlers got to make some money, but it didn't have a huge significant value like, say, Final X did when you're going to the World Championships. So I think there's different ways to go about it. If we can figure out the right model, I don't know if that's a UFC type, one-off model, pay-per-view model. I don't know if it's a dual team type model with the RTCs. I don't know there's been so many pro ideas kicked around in the last few years. And I think, the top athletes don't want to get hurt for something that doesn't essentially mean that much. Jordan Burroughs doesn't need to go get paid. He's good. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to wrestle in a one-off to put food on his table.
Let's also, though, it's still, if you win, it's what $7,500 for 6 minutes of work.
Agreed.
One thing I also did like about it, you looked at the 10 matches, not a single one. Okay, maybe one of those bouts, you said, okay, this one's definitely going to be. I'm probably thinking Sorensen Green probably was the most one-sided on paper. But you looked at the other 9 bouts, so there's 18 athletes all believing they had a shot to win and make $7,500. So I think there was definitely some financial incentive because those are the 2, 3, 4s, the guys that, like you said, they need a $7,500 bump.
Agreed.
Is going to
here's the
push
thing.
them.
A one-off is one thing. Sustained equitable success is another. And you're talking about a one-off event versus a long-term business model that's going to increase in economic value. And you got to have a lot of buy-in.
Is this your NBA talking here?
I know a thing or two.
So, maybe there's your thesis is professional wrestling leagues.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you're listening out there and you need a master's topic,
well, you can call me as a reference or a resource. But yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to it, to be honest. And I'm glad we're having these things pop up. But I also want to make sure that it's not just, you can't rely on. Excuse me. You can't rely on the Andy Bars of the world to put up $30,000 every time they want to have a pro wrestling match. That's not an economically sustainable. Unless Andy just wants to lose all his money, right? So you've got to consider things like that. How much can you actually make off of a tournament and drive up the economic value? So, hopefully we didn't lose a lot of the listeners there with my, business discussion. But I think it's important to know that there is value to be had with wrestling, and whether that's USA Wrestling finding a solution, NCAA helping with a solution, media outlets helping with the solution. It's going to be a joint effort across the board to build up that value in wrestling and make it as mainstream as possible. With the understanding, like, wrestling's not going to be football. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, we can't compare our events. Like I think I remember discussing with a fan on the message boards the other day. It's like, well, we're talking about location. I think it was the subject of the Chicago arena where DePaul plays in suburban Chicago. I think at Rosemont. I think it's Rosemont Horizon was the old place DePaul used to play. I think the Wintrust Arena is where it is now, and it's like, well, the Big Ten moves their football. The Big Ten. You're looking at two things. One, football is you cannot compare college football to anything else in this country because it's not your fan bases do not react the same. They will go to a 4-hour football experience and make it a 10-hour party, whereas wrestling people, they go to a 10-hour experience and try to find a place to party. It's not like, all right, we're going to go for 4 hours, we're done, we beat you, let's go have no. Wrestling tournaments are 2 and 3 day ordeals. Especially 3 with the one that we have is our biggest party of the year. So comparing any type of event to moving things around and getting the draw, like Vegas, let's swing this back to Cliff Keen, because for years this has been one of the there's 3 big regular season individual tournaments: Cliff Keen, the Midlands, and the Scuffle. Back in the day, it was 2.5 because Wilkes kind of picked up the teams that couldn't get into the Midlands back in the day, but. Now we've got a mini NCAAs, and depending on the year, some years the Scuffle's tougher, some years the Midland's tougher, some years it's Vegas, and we've got people always clamoring for Vegas to be a site for the NCAAs, but nobody shows up in large to the best kickoff preseason event, not a preseason, it's a regular season event. Like what we saw, no matter what rankings you're looking at, half the wrestlers in the field or half the ranked wrestlers were in the tournament. Like, how can you not have that full? And I'm sitting there looking at the camera angles, and it's a convention center. It's not an arena, but it's just like there should be no empty seats at a place like Vegas. And with great competition, we're like, we want to see the best matches. No, you don't. You don't go to Vegas. Oh, you can fly to Vegas for cheap. No, you don't. You don't go. So there's an example of a tournament that we can't get people to go to watch, and the Terrells do a great job running that thing. And there was a story in the Las Vegas Review-Journal today that how many different locations that thing has been in Las Vegas. Yet it's, what do we got to get to people? Come on, it's Vegas and it's awesome wrestling. I don't get it.
There's a lot of work to be had there, and it is disappointing, seeing, let's just say empty seats for a tournament like that. That is disappointing. At the same time, thankful that at this point in time we can watch every single match online. You can still be a fan, you can follow it, you can generate that buzz online. Folks like myself or tournament organizers or whoever it may be trying to push it through the media relations circles. And
I'd like to announce it if you're listening. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, that's all I had. That was my subliminal, not so subliminal message. Follow Jason and Brian.
Yeah.
Mr. Subliminal from SNL. Anyway, continue. I'm doing my interrupting thing again.
You're good. This is just why we work together, because I just let you talk when you interrupt. So. I think there's a lot of work that could be done to increase attendance at wrestling events. But it's a lot harder than you would think. Just because you put something in the middle of Pennsylvania, see Final X Lehigh, does not mean that it's going to be well attended. So it's about more than location. It's about a number of factors. But I think we do have one thing right now, and it's the access to the sport in a digital capacity. So we're improving there. In-venue experience is something that we can really work on. Final X, though, especially Lincoln and State College, I wasn't able to go to Lehigh, so I can't speak to that one specifically. But Final X and State College were awesome. It was really cool to see the effort on the part of the tournament organizers to do it the right way. Maybe the attendance wasn't where it needed to be, but we're getting there. So that's encouraging to see. And that can be applied across the board.
Yeah, we did. So one thing I did like about Final X, having gone to all 3 and worked all 3, is we did get to spread wrestling around to different pockets of the. Yeah, okay, they didn't all sell out, but we got to see some really good wrestling and have a really good time in Lincoln. We got to bring it into Rec Hall And, the Penn State fans got to see it. They all didn't have to fly to Lincoln and spend 2 days there. They drove in, drove out. Same with Lehigh, which is Grace Hall at Lehman Turner Arena is one of the great wrestling facilities, and I think it was almost a perfect size for it. I know they were talking about putting it in Stabler to start with, but I thought Grace would have been, even if it would have sold out to the gills. I mean, they got almost 1,000 there for what it was, but it was still the wrestling action carried it. And one thing about the Final X events, and this is something that AWL did not get, and Sarah Hildebrandt, I know, was one of a couple who kind of went. I wouldn't say she went ballistic, but she made her opinions known about the lack of women's wrestling at the AWL. But the women's wrestling, in some respects, in that first session in Lincoln, it really kind of carried the action until we got to see Burroughs and Snyder, and then the action at Lehigh was phenomenal. We had come from behind victories in State College. So one thing that I think that Final X really did is there are some traditionalists out there that will sit there and bitch and moan about being forced to watch women's wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan and you want to watch pure wrestling, I guarantee you every single athlete on that mat knows more about wrestling and knows better technique than you do, unless you're, one of these Olympic champions. Okay, you get a pass saying that you know more than them. But if you're John Q wrestling fan complaining about watching women's wrestling, those athletes know more than you do technically. So stop being a technique snob and saying that the quality of wrestling isn't what it is. It's better than any of the high school matches you'll ever attend. So, knock that out the way. And then you got the competition, the level of competition. Like, it's like why people like small college wrestling. It's the same thing. It's not, don't look at it from like, oh, I'm looking at for the technique. Look at it for the competition, man. I mean, like 11-10 matches or barn burner 7-5s or come from behind, get a late turn kind of stuff. It's the competitive nature of the match. It's like why people like watching Big 12 football. It's not because the teams are any good. Oh wait, that actually sounds bad. They're good teams. It's just that they compete in a different manner that's exciting. So I don't want to make it seem like I was saying that the women's wrestling is not good, but that action carried a lot of those Final X moments where it was like, if it was, if we had, how many Green Chamberlains can you stomach? No offense to either of those guys either, but I mean, it really did help. I think Final X really helped put the women on another level for a lot of fans. It changed a lot of opinions.
I agree. And a couple points, and we can go back to Vegas. I know you wanted to get to some Vegas results talk, but
not if we don't need to. This is the long and short of it, how it was meant to be.
Yeah, for sure. So
a little bonus time.
Short points.
Lord of the House of Immel.
So number one to Final X. You remember I was talking about the long-term equity? Final X is a step towards that. It's a long-term play. It's not a short-term, oh, well, we didn't get the fans in the stands. It's time to go to something else. It's about building that event and being able to say, oh, are you going to Final X this year? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be in this place. And it's building that thing up. That way, wrestling people might hate it that I say this, and wrestling tournaments are tough, man. As a fan, I don't know why you would go to a wrestling tournament unless it's NCAA's. Like, it is tough to sit
Our
there
attendance
all day.
dictates that's really the only place they go other than Iowa dual meets and Penn State dual meets.
That's what I mean. I mean, I'm sitting there as this weekend in Vegas, I'm a photographer, and I'm like, man, it is long, and I'm enjoying it. I love every second of it. I'm sitting there in Matt's side. I'm in the battle, right? I'm right next to the coaches and the wrestlers, and I have that experience. But someone's just sitting in a chair all day. That's tough. That's tough to sit there. It's hard to see 10 mats. It's not fan friendly. So by Final X going to a more fan friendly, situation and experience, that helps the sport completely. And long term, I think you're going to see that event really come into its own, and be one of the premier wrestling events worldwide every year. Just give it time.
You know what I liked a couple of years, and this actually goes back to your whole 10 mat thing. It's like the U.S. Open in Vegas. I mean, you're talking 2020. I mean, there's so many events going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Western Juniors, UWW Juniors. I think we got the veterans, we got the kids, and then we got the U.S. Open typically on how before they tweaked formats. But it was that golden circle year where they had the two finals mats on like the other half. There's the arena. It was a long session. It really was. But I thought the concept there was good. It's like, okay, make the finals an event versus and we need to highlight some matches. One thing is like about the changing it up with the platform. I mean, you could put on, and they've done a better job at this at South Point, but like that raised platform. Let's put one year. Jordan Oliver wrestled Logan Steber on like mat 23.
I was just thinking about that match.
It's like where, and I'm at the head table like where that. It was 2013. It was the Save Olympic.
It was
Wrestling.
right after their match.
Yeah. I was like, where the heck? Yeah, we couldn't see it. So that's one thing that, you know, just because you can cram 23 mats in a space doesn't mean you really should. And that's, you know,
exactly.
I mean, I just talked to Frank Lapoli at the Virginia Challenge on short time and recorded for today. And it was like, yeah, like the Virginia Beach Convention Center where they have the NHSCA Nationals and stuff there, 40 mats. It's like, And the one year they did high school nationals, they finished it up. They actually had like portable bleachers. So they had like 2,000 bleachers around this one mat for finals. That was cool. So that's where that golden circle thing is. We can take these monster events and create a true finals. And, you know, I mean, the production values there with what we've seen with television, like Christian Holiday's group, with, you know, Global Sports using Fox College Sports, and then, you know, Flow and Track and all the players in the field there. I mean, we're at least starting to work the presentation down where if it's a grind of a tournament, we at least have some type of true presentation for the finals. That's the nice thing we're getting to.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I forget, going back to the Final X points, kudos to the state college fans, because there was actually women's matches that went to match 3, but the men's did not.
And so they stayed.
They stayed. And that arena was filled. So I think Velty and Miracle was one. I don't remember if there's another one.
Yeah, Aaron Claudio and Rachel Waters.
Yeah, and those were exciting matches. And I remember, you know, Velty, you saw she went on to win a bronze medal at the World Championships. And I think in large part because of the way she was pushed to that third match. And by all accounts, Miracle is the favorite in that series. You know, Miracle actually beat her, I think, a couple weeks after that at the Grand Prix of Spain. So,
and the Penn State fans know that the Spanish Grand Prix is where careers can be made.
Yes, they can, David Taylor.
3 people got that joke.
Yeah, I know. Everyone on the what's the Penn State message board? They all get it. So yeah, I wanted to say that there is progress being made, because that arena stayed packed for the most part, by and large, when after David Taylor was done competing.
After he took the microphone from Hazard.
Yeah, you still had a couple matches, you know, after that. So yeah, that was really cool to see, and a sign at least of progress. But I agree, you know, Sarah's point. I saw her point on Twitter, and you know, I saw a couple of other women reiterated that. Yeah, where we can incorporate diversity into our big showcase events, that's going to do nothing but help the sport. Because number one, I mean, the women, and you want to talk about Greco too, I mean, there are exciting matchups to be had. There's exciting wrestling to be had. You know, I can go watch a freestyle stinker too. You know, if you want to get I mean, you said Green and Chamberlain. I mean, they'll laugh about it, but that wasn't fun to watch. You know, nobody wanted to watch that a second time. So
they didn't want to wrestle that a second time. That's probably why they didn't want to wrestle it a third.
Yeah,
like, dude, we trained together for 3 years. We're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, Coach Snyder told me a funny story this weekend about that match. He said, "So you know the photo that I got of James afterwards, that he was like screaming, you know, celebrating. It's his only like photo of celebrating. He's, you know, flexed out after you win a match, right? It's a typical wrestling like celebration kind of shot. Yeah. So I had actually sent that photo to James and Coach Snyder, Brian Snyder, I'm talking about, assistant coach in Nebraska, and they use that photo for a T-shirt, you know, the going away T-shirt for before the World Championships. Anyway, so the funny story is that Snyder comes up and he's like, "Yeah, you know, James had that planned the whole time going in, that he was going to scream and look at the cameras, because he doesn't have any photos of himself celebrating a wrestling match. He's all, you know how James is, he's so calm and like no expression at all." And so I remember thinking back on the tweet afterwards, that same night I posted that photo up because it's a great photo. And James was like, "I finally have a photo of me celebrating. Here it is." But it was planned the whole time beforehand, premeditated. So that was just kind of funny. I probably wasn't supposed to say that out loud, so keep that under wraps. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's off the record, podcast listeners. No. Yeah. Speaking of interesting James Green anecdote, I did tweet this. I was sitting outside of the hotel in Budapest, and we're in between the arena, the hotel Ibis, and then the training facility. And Snyder and James are just kind of walking up, and Green's like, man, I really need to get a shirt that says I'm not JB. And as I walk by, and I just look like, hey, wait a minute, come on, man. he goes, okay, that's funny. Because, I mean, I get,
You're JB. Well,
No, I cannot argue with Jordan about this anymore. He just walks by me every time. What's up, JB number 2? I'm like, you got how many world titles?
You hold your own, man. You hold your own.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm a better PA announcer than he is. That's pretty much it. I mean, I might be able to beat him in Connect 4.
Everyone has their thing, man.
I mean,
don't sell yourself short.
Connect 4 and PA, I mean, I'm pretty good there. I mean, my wife hates playing me in Connect 4. Now, one thing I do want to shift back, a little bit of discussion about the college scene and
for sure.
Vegas. I mean, I don't want to go weight by weight because that would take another 5 hours. But just a couple performances that stood out to you that maybe not even champions, things that were like that guy. He's gonna be a problem. Who impressed you the most, I guess?
Yeah, there's a few actually. I actually answered this question on Twitter. Who impressed me the most? And I wrote Gable Stevenson because. Obviously, I know who he is. I've seen him wrestle at the World Championships a number of times. I know his style, right? But you also got to consider this guy is a true freshman, and he's at heavyweight. So that's a real man's weight, right? It's not 125 where everyone's the same size and everyone pretty much wrestles the same style unless you're Spencer Lee and you're a freak. But I was really
freak. Yeah. Sorry, I got 90s on 9 back on XM radio right now, so I'm channeling my inner TLC.
So I'm really impressed with the way Gable, his physicality against his opponents. His
very physicality. There's a couple instances this weekend that made people go, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that he won matches. I'm surprised in the way that he won matches. That's what impressed me. Is that the confidence was there, and this is his first major college tournament.
Well, he's not even 19 yet.
No, and he just comes out, and he was very confident in his skill set, his abilities. He moved quick for a heavyweight. He had quick finishes. He was able to push guys around on the mat. He made guys want to quit wrestling him, and we're talking about college heavyweights. We're not talking about high school. So to see him make that jump so quickly, very impressive. Obviously, there are a few other guys that I was impressed with. Ryan Deacon is a guy that impressed me. I thought he looked really solid.
How did he ever make 149?
That's a great question. Well, when he did, he won a junior world silver medal. So, he's the real deal.
Is he the Rizzle Dizzle?
He's the Rizzle Dizzle.
My buddy Bill Hupp would love that reference. You won't get that. It's, hey, JB, is Ben Askren the Rizzle Dizzle? That was 2006, I think. Anyway, so Gable obviously impressive. Who? Gable, Deacon. I mean, we're talking Team Finland here.
We are talking Team Finland. I do have an affinity for guys who compete at the world stage, at the World Championships or Pan Am Championships. At the age levels, because I think they have a little bit. They have that experience, and I think that's very valuable to have that perspective on wrestling. So I think you see that. You see that with a guy like I've been pretty high on Zach Elam this year.
Oh, he's looked great. They pulled his shirt right away.
Yeah, I think he's going to be trouble come NCAA time. He finished third. He took a loss he probably shouldn't have, but he finished third at this tournament. I thought he looked great. I was really impressed with Don Demas, even in I watched his match with Joey McKenna, and he went hard with him. And McKenna's a guy McKenna's a tough guy to score on, and is very solid and sound as his attacks, and that's ultimately what won him the match. But just the acrobatics and the unique style that Demas has, I really appreciate. It was fun to watch, but I think he could potentially make a run at All-American this season. So I think that was a good guy to watch. There were a number of guys. Mekhi Lewis, I thought he looked great. I think he has some freshman tweaks he can iron out. But I think skill set wise, to make the finals as a freshman at that weight class, when you got guys like, Logan Massa and Isaiah White, and I think he beat the Northern Iowa kid in the semis, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I thought he looked really great. I know I'm missing some people.
Well, I mean, there's all the champs. What was interesting is, as I heard Shane Sparks talking about it, is I didn't realize this as I was watching Penn State throttle Lehigh the next day. All 10 champs were from the Big Ten.
5 of them were from New Jersey kids. So how about that?
Yeah, what exits? So we had Rivera, Suriano, McKenna, Ashnault. Wow, the first 4 as we keep going.
White. See the New Jersey kid?
No, Isaiah White's Oak Park River Forest. He's a kid.
Right.
But Miles Martin, who went to school in Maryland, is from New Jersey.
Go. Miles Martin.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's a pretty good stat.
Yeah. So I love Miles Martin, by the way, and Colin Moore. Big Colin Moore guy.
He's a big guy. So, you mentioned Zach Elam. One guy that I'm looking forward to see is a guy Elam beat for 3rd and 4th, Demetrius Thomas. And people are starting to realize who this guy is. He lost early on the front side to a Division II All-American from Nebraska, Kearney. But Demetrius was basically started wrestling late in high school. I think it might have been his junior or senior year. I mean, something like that. And he went to NAIA Williams Baptist. Kerry Regner, who's now the head coach at Millersville, which is a Division II school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And he was the coach at Williams Baptist. And Thomas is from Ferguson, Missouri. So you can understand that he was kind of under the radar in a lot of respects for wrestling. Goes to NAIA and just wins it as a freshman. And beats Saran Francisco, who was also drafted in the AWL from Concordia, who's now training at UVA as a freshman. Then wrestles Dean Broghammer, who won it as a sophomore. Thomas beat him as a junior, and then Broghammer from Grandview beat him in the finals last year. So Thomas goes into D1. He transfers out, and it's like, rumors were he was going to go to Mizzou because they weren't sure what they were going to do with Austin Myers. They had, Coling was bumping up from 84 to wrestle heavyweight. I mean, they had a real hole there, and then Elam comes in. They pull the shirt, and now it looks like it was probably good that Thomas didn't go to Mizzou. He's at Pitt with Keith Gavin, who's getting some results out of his guys. We know Mickey Philippi had a great run to the finals, but I'm really curious how Demetrius Thomas develops as a wrestler. He did wrestle at the Scuffle last year. A lot of people don't know that. He didn't place, but he was the only non-D1 guy in the tournament. Lost to Joey Goodhart from Drexel. I can't remember who else he lost to, but he's a guy that, just because he's coming from the NAIA, he's still learning how to wrestle. And he just powers through people. And the kid is still learning how to wrestle. So I'm really curious with the way heavyweight is this year, where he can, I think we're overusing the term jump levels, but in this guy's case, I think, he's 4th, and he lost to a guy that's been wrestling a long time. It's got some junior world experience. So the older guy was less experienced than the true freshman in this case. So, he's one of those guys I just really want to see how he does throughout the course of the year, mainly because, I've seen what Kerry Regner did to build the program at Williams Baptist. So I'm kind of curious on where his guys are going to go. So Thomas was probably the one guy I was probably watching the most, even though there was some great guys in the field.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple others too. Obviously, I need to mention Griffin Perriott, who lives right down the street from me. So,
did the coaching staff tell him not to do that thing that he did against Iowa? Don't do that again.
Yeah, don't do that again. I thought this was a big moment for him. He's one of those guys that has the talent, but maybe just needed a little bit of confidence mixed with a healthy body, mixed with things finally starting to click. Typically when you don't have Spencer Lees and Yannis and Gables coming out, it takes freshmen or young wrestlers a year or two to get adjusted to college wrestling, right? I think the learning curve is definitely lessened, but I think Perriott's one of these guys that he'll be able to challenge for an All-American spot this year. If he can continue to grow and develop and stay healthy, and that's exciting for a team like Purdue, who hasn't had an All-American in a while, but they've been close. I think they had 2 guys in the blood round last year. So, it's exciting to see teams like that, have some success. And it's a little close to home for me too. Kanan Storr, I thought, was mighty impressive. I think, I like to see a good comeback story. I think he got a little bit of a bad rap at Iowa State. He had high expectations. Um, really good kid. I got the chance to chat with him quite a bit in Cuba. He went on a tour in Cuba last February. I was able to go on that, and really nice kid, and he seemed to have his head on him, head on straight, and glad to see him do well. And he pushed Ironman to the brink. He finished third place here. That was a fun weight, class 141. Last one I'll give you was Austin O'Connor. I was really
scrappy. That kid.
Yeah, he's scrappy.
He is a fighter, man. Like, I don't know if there's a street fight, I want that guy, not because of a swagger or anything. He's just like, he looks mean out there. It looks like he's out there just to punish you and get the job done.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see how he continues throughout this season. Obviously, he has a little bit of hype, after what he did in his wrestle-offs and his freshman results last year. So, remains to be seen with some of these young guys. Can they keep it consistent all the way through the NCAA championships? But, really exciting start to the season. I think we got some interesting results and, maybe a little clarity with some of the hierarchy, some of these weight classes. So it's always nice to see that early in the year.
Yeah, I think those are definitely guys to look forward to too. So, not too much to report in terms of any other things I really wanted to talk about with Richard Immel. So we got some scores to settle as we wrap up this episode, and we have to basically put a bow on the Game of Throws Fantasy Football League, in which I closed out the year on a hot streak. I needed all. Yeah. I was pulling horseshoes out of where. It wasn't luck. It was Andrew Luck that was helping me. Boo, dad jokes are bad jokes. Win 4 in a row, I end up tied for 5th, and I don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, it happened to me too. I actually I tied for the second best record, and I finished in 3rd place, so I didn't get a bye. Even though my team was by far the highest scoring team in the league, which
it was.
Yeah, it was. And I also it might have changed after last week, but before that was the team that had given up the most points or had the most points scored on you. So that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
Because let's look at the standings here. So I'm going to look at by the way, the Game of Throws, because Richard is such a Game of Thrones fan, and we brought it into, I don't even know if just wrestling fans. I mean, it's me, Richard, the Blood Round guys. Holmes was in there. There's a couple other folks from the message boards and Twitter world that are, pretty good league. But I'm looking at it and like, okay, I was fine. I finished 6 and 7. I was 2 and 7 at one point, and then made a run, and it's like the House Fry Wedding Planners, Dongle Lute, and Tyrion Magomedov all finished, 5, 6, and 7. I'm sitting there going, okay, I got more points than Dongle Lute, but they beat me head to head, but only had a chance to play them once, whereas I played other teams twice. I'm like, come on.
Every game matters, man.
Oh, and thing is, I think Mr. Amazing was worried about, was it Chris that was talking about me beating him by .02?
Yeah,
that happened to me like 4 weeks earlier. So it's like
that happened when we played too. You beat me by like 1 point.
Well, and then what drove me nuts is I'm sitting there with like, okay, I got Mike Evans and Odell Beckham, the 2 wide receivers. You don't bench them ever, and and then it got to the point where it's like, okay, crap, I got Cooper Kupp sitting here too, and we have no flex. It's like, you risk it. Like the 1 week I throw Kupp in there, he has an off week, and ODB goes crazy. Not that ODB, OBJ. I just want to call him ODB because of Wu-Tang. But it was like, the Kroll. I stopped playing him. It was like every other week. It was like I'd bench him, he'd have 20-something points. I'd start him, he'd have no points. And then again, hashtag nobody cares about your fantasy football league. But exactly. I want to go through the names of the teams here, Richard, because I thought this was a pretty solid effort from those that really bought into the Game of Throws.
Got to give a shout out to those guys that played with me or joined the league. Hopefully we can grow it up to 12. It'd be cool to have 12 teams in there next season. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, maybe go to the playoffs to 8. No. So Manning faced God, which is always a good one. The Slightly Sullied, White Walkers, which has kind of been your go-to for a while. A Girly Has No Name, which is tremendous.
Except for I have Todd Gurley, so
yeah. Well, and then house fry wedding planners. I
mean, that's my brother.
If you're a fan, by the way, who I barely beat because he had Kelsey and Mahomes in his starting lineup on a bye week.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I like trounced people in these. They were some ugly wins, but they were wins. Dongle Loot, which is kind of a play on French and Indian, whatever, if you're into that kind of cuisine. Tyrion Magomedov, I've got to give Andy Hamilton the shout out. So initially I was the Winterfell Three-Eyed Ravens, and I realized that was just like really kind of trite, to be honest with you. If we're looking for Game of Thrones names in fantasy football, but
that was a little lame.
But so I changed it up to, and Andy Hamilton came up with the Magomedov. It wasn't a drinking game, but it was like the Magomedov game. Like you get a point for getting Magomedov selfie game. If you get a selfie with somebody that has Magomedov in their name, it's 1 point. If it's like Kurmagomedov, it's like it's like 2 points if it's a Magomedov, 1 point if it's just like a Kurmagomedov, and it's double points if it's a Magomedov. So, we're going around Slovakia trying to get selfies with Magomedovs. So I figured, all right, well, let's just change my fantasy football team name to Tyrion Magomedov. So that was the reference there. Holmes didn't play the game. He was just Holmes. And the Faceless Men of Bravos, and then Strategy. That's what we ended up with.
Yeah. So there was some good effort. Maybe next year we can have everyone buy in.
Well, 2 of the 3 worst names finished 8th and 10th. So
that's no surprise.
Yeah,
I mean, there's correlation there for sure. What else you got for me?
Nothing there other than what's the next wrestling event we will see the legendary BDI attending?
Yeah, I'll actually be at the Walsh Ironman tournament this Friday and Saturday. So I'll be taking photos there. And
that means I got to release this episode before Friday.
Yeah, sorry about that. Outside of that, we'll probably be at the Midlands. Would be my next college event. So, yeah, probably be at the Midlands. I might need to, crash on your floor or something like that. So we can discuss that.
Well, yeah, that we can do. We can have a nice tall Lagunitas.
We could do like we did in Finland that one time and just share the hotel room
with the most expensive cheeseburger ever.
It's like a $30 cheeseburger.
No, the second most. Then I think Denmark in 2009 had the most expensive cheeseburger ever. That was the same place Novogratz paid to keep open because everything closed at like 8:00 in Herning, Denmark. So I too will be at the Midlands. I get to go to Arkansas like next week.
Oh, that's cool.
So dropping
for the Ironman. I haven't been to the Ironman.
Oh, dude, you'll love it. You'll love it. It's unique. I don't like the split gym, but then again, that's kind of the allure of these high school events. But when you're in the dome, when you're in those first 4 mats, it is everything that you might expect it to be because there are some stuff. I mean, I remember one year Zach Kammerer was going into his senior year. He was wrestling in Upper Perkiomen. He was an All-American at Penn. Well, the year before, he had won the Beast, the Ironman, and Reno. Upper Perk went to all 3, and he won them all. He was came in as the number 2 ranked recruit, mainly on his credentials, and then he got pinned by Sean Nelson in like the quarters from St. Ed's quarters. It was a funky roll-through situation. He caught him there, and some say it might have been a quick fall. I would tend to agree that it might have been, but it was like, what? Like, and all these, I mean, just the Ohio studs as they come out. I mean, you're going to see, when you see them as freshmen coming out there, and then they're going to eventually be David Taylor. They're going to be Logan Stieber. I saw those guys wrestle out there, and it was a treat. So you're going to be able to watch, especially watch 6 and 13 with those from those power programs. They're just, Richie Figs will be there. So I mean, it's going to be. Yep. It's going to be good. The Ironman is a great event. So I haven't been back in a couple of years. Actually, it's been probably 10 years since I've been. But yeah, that's one. So you don't want to be wrestling that back gym because that means you're in the consies.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So yeah, and I will be taking photos there. So if you happen to be at the event, come say hey. I'll be the guy with the camera and the bad back, probably some USA Wrestling gear on, hunched over by the mat. So love to talk wrestling.
Yeah, so we got that. We got the Midlands. I get to go to Arkansas. And then I actually want to drop this nugget here, and I also want to make a little pitch because Richard, for years, he will be getting a gift bag in the mail here as a longtime patron of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. As the gear came in from Compound. You actually ended up in the baseball hat era, but we got some new shirts. So you and the little woman will be be able to rock some new gear here shortly. But to get that, you can go to patreon.com/MadTalkOnline. Certain level of giving monthly if you support this show and the shows on the network. Stickers, hats, T-shirts, draft glasses. The NCAA fan guide is one of those perks that you can get. Richard, the fan guide, labor of love, brother. But that thing I love doing that thing. It sucks, but I love doing it. But
that's great. It's fantastic. I highly recommend that. Let me piggyback off this pitch for you, because remember that conversation earlier I was talking about building equity in the sport of wrestling? If you don't have the equity to be able to do this show, you're not going to have these interviews. You're not going to have that fan guide. You're not going to have the capability, to put out this great content that you do. So if you can support Jason, or however you can support wrestling nationally, locally, whatever it is, that's how you can make a difference without being, the CEO of USA Wrestling, right? Or whoever that may be. Everyone can make a difference. So that was my pitch.
That's the testimonial from a patron and a guy who had his podcast on the network for a while. Who was it? Yeah, Johnny Ruggiano's like, yeah, man, Richard needs to bring back bonus points. We'll talk about that at a future time. But anything else? Follow Richard on Twitter and at the tweets. Well, Instagram. Are they all the same handle? Are they all Richard_Immel?
Yeah, it's all the same. Photo website. The quick link to it's rimmelpics.com. I've got some stuff on there. I'm putting stuff up from Vegas. I've got the finals up. I've got, like 14 of the 20 semis up, some random stuff up already from Vegas, and we'll be working on that. So if you like cool wrestling photos, you can actually go on there and like buy prints or canvases or different things like that.
Celebration shots like James Green.
Yeah, absolutely. So
he can make an "I'm Not JB" T-shirt with his picture on it. Finally,
you can make T-shirts, coasters. Yeah, I mean, there's also some little trinket gifts that you can do through the website. So that's pretty cool if you want some wrestling memorabilia to have, just hang up on your wall or whatever. So coffee mug, iPhone case, different things like that. So yeah, if you like wrestling photos, you can check that out. If you want to get a hold of me, shoot me a message on the Twitter or the Instagram. Always happy to talk wrestling, and try to stay involved as much as I can in the capacity that I'm at now. So I love it, man. Love what you do. Obviously, big supporter. So, yep, I'm good, man.
That's going to be the mic drop for Richard Immel. Jason Brown, thanks for listening, and rate, review, support the show. MadTalkOnline.com/join the team or Patreon.com/MadTalkOnline. Those of you who are our loyal patrons, you will be getting gift boxes and bags in the mail. Like I said, I've already stuffed 13 boxes full of shirts, and I'm just going to leave that for Tommy and Kevin to make fun of. That's all I got. Later on. The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Clothing. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. First time listening? Well, you can change that by going to MadTalkOnline.com/GetShortTime to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or listen on your favorite podcatcher at MadTalkOnline.com/listen.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MadTalkOnline.com.